Hello everyone, my name is Oluwafemi Oluwadurotimi Popola. I am the author of a book called I Am Existence, which also happens to be the name of this podcast. So this is the I Am Existence podcast. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about a subject which I'm sure a lot of people have spoken about myriads of times over the centuries. This is just my 2 cents or my take on the subject. The question we are asking is, who is God? And I believe that there's a lot of confusion about this question based on some belief systems that have been around for some time. We've come to accept today in contemporary society that there are 3 religions that have a monotheistic bent to them, or a monotheistic reality to them, and they are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and the 3 of them worship one God. Now, based off of this misconception, people have thought or come to believe that the God that they worship is the same person, but is just worshipped in different ways and systems. I believe that the Bible teaches us something different. There isn't one God. There are many gods, and the Bible gives us the names of several of them. In the books of Exodus, I believe, is where it really starts to mention the names of different gods. We hear the names of entities like Baal, Ashtaroth, there's Moloch, there's a bunch of other different gods that are mentioned in the Bible. In Egyptian theology, there's Ra, I believe, there's Isis. In Greek theology, in Roman theology, I'm not sure which is which, there's Thor, there's Odin, Hercules, and a bunch of other gods. Now, people will say, no, those are not gods. The Bible calls them gods. They are gods. They are entities that people worship. God is not the name of a person. God is a definition of a person, or a definition of an entity. It's like saying man is the name of a person. No, man is a class of being. And in that class of being, there are some people who, for instance, in whatever country it is that you're living in, you either have a president or a prime minister or a king. And there are some other people who are occupy other positions and do different things. So the way man is a word that describes a class of being is the same way the word God describes a class of being, and within that class of being there are different entities. Now, what qualifies them to be identified as a god is the fact that people revere them. People recognize them as deities that need to be worshipped in whatever society or tradition you come from. So once you have an entity that is recognized by a group of people that this entity deserves our adoration, deserves our worship, then that entity falls into the classification of God. Now, some gods are not even supernatural entities, as crazy as that sounds. The Bible talks about the fact that there are some people who take a piece of wood, they take a tree, they cut it down, then they take a part of that wood and they use to make firewood. From that firewood, they cook their food, they burn fire, and then they stay beside the fire and they say, I'm warm. The cold is not getting to me because of the fire from this firewood. And then with another section of that same wood, they carve out something that they bow down to and they call it a god. As long as it is revered, as long as it is worshipped, as long as it is adored, it is classified as a god. Now, every god has defining characteristics. those who worship Thor and Odin and these other entities, they know their characteristics. There's Bacchus, I believe, who is the god of wine, and I think one of his characteristics was that he was always drunk, and he liked to he was a philandering drunkard. There's Thor, I believe, who is the god of thunder, who I think got injured in one eye. There's Odin. There's different things, different entities. The Egyptians, I know I'm calling all these names of different entities that some people will consider, why is he even mentioning the names of all these gods in a Christian podcast? It's because I want to bring home the understanding that the word God is not referring to one person or one entity. These entities are all gods, and the Bible calls them gods. The Bible says that there are gods many and there are lords many. However, every single one of these gods has defining characteristics, and their characteristics are not malleable. If a person has multiple characteristics that are contradictory to one another, that person is considered bipolar or multiple personality or schizophrenic. I don't know what the conventional name for all of these things are, but basically that person is crazy. So, and these gods are not crazy. These gods are fully functional. They have their senses intact. These are their characteristics. Bacchus is a drunkard. There are some gods who love war. They just love to fight, and that's their way of doing. There are some of them that are that their main characteristic is deceit, being crafty, being deceitful, and playing games, making humans jump through hoops, and all of these kinds of things. Now, it is asinine to say that you have one person or one entity that one group of people believe he is one way, another group of people believe he is another way, and a third group of people believe he is a third way, but it's the same person. Especially when those characteristics, some of them are completely contradictory to one another. These are not the same entity. The fact that three different religions have one entity that they consider the supreme being in their system of faith does not mean that one supreme being in those three different religions is the same entity. They are not. The name of the God of the Bible is Yod He Vav He, which some of us pronounce as Yahweh, and his characteristics are well defined in the Bible. This idea that there is one God and people worship him differently and they understand different characteristics has created a lot of confusion, because when people just say God and everybody thinks, okay, fine, it's the same person, it's just that we worship him differently. It's not the same. The characteristics are different. The entity is different. If you say you know a person and the person is a man and has one wife and two children, and then somebody else comes and says, I know a person, the person is a woman and she's married to another person and they have 5 children, you are clearly not talking about the same person. Somebody came to me one time and they started talking about, they said, God is here, God is around, this, that, and the other. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And they said, she's coming for her people. And I immediately just said, okay, let me, the person I was working with decided to just move away. And I was like, no, I want to hear this. So they started talking, and then it was all of this kind of they were trying to really doing their best to convince me and all of that. And at some point in time, I could tell that one of the people who was preaching this message to me was not convinced. I think they were just going with the flow. Maybe somebody had invited them to be a part of that religion, and they clearly were not convinced, but they were just going along with the flow. So I turned to that person and I said, you better stop playing all these games. You don't have time to play these games. And their partner came and quickly scuttled them along and tried to prevent them from hearing what I was saying. But yes, God is not one. There is not one universal God that is worshipped in different ways. If people are worshiping God in different ways, and the God has different characteristics in different systems, they are not the same person. God has made his ways, his characteristics, his likes, his dislikes very, very clear in the Bible. And it's interesting that whenever most people in the world want to talk about standard of righteousness or doing right, they usually refer to the Bible, regardless of what religion they are from. So there is some intrinsic knowledge or some intrinsic agreement that this is the source of truth. But I'm not going to take it much further than that.